So I just wanted to take a couple more minutes here and do maybe a more complex user interface flow using this same sort of UI. So what we're going to do here is, for the sake of argument, we're going to assume that we're working with a taxonomy term page. You'll see we have the same basic things as we had in my previous video. We have page elements, static blocks, and now we have a term context because we're getting a term across the URL by default. As before, I can go ahead and open up the data sources, and we'll see, no surprises here, global user, global language, term from URL. The first thing I want to do here is I want to illustrate some aspects of globals. This was just the first way I could think to do it. There are better ways to do it, but we have a global user, and you'll notice we don't have a user context here. And panels and page manager do actually have a global user, and they don't actually expose that user here in the component groupings to you. But I kind of wanted to do this for Drupal 8 in such a way that we could get at those things without having to specifically reload them. So the first thing I did here, and this is just what came to mind first, was I said, hey, allow this user context or this user data source to influence the available components. So when we click that, you'll see we get a user context. This could probably be maybe just a little checkbox on the contexts that are available. It might even be something that's useful across all checkbox or all data sources so that we could quickly limit what we're seeing up here. I don't know, it's just a thought. Again, just kind of my first pass at this. And so we can go ahead and look and see what blocks are provided within the user context. Then from there, what I wanted to do was I wanted to go ahead and use the global user and add a global user's language context. And so we'll just go ahead and do that. If there were any language components, which we really don't have such things in Drupal 7 right now from a available blocks perspective, then this could be updated to reflect that. But I didn't choose to do anything here, but you can see that we do have a language relationship to the global user, and so that becomes available to us. And so now we have two languages. Global language and the global user's language are usually the same, not 100% of the time. This is sort of nuanced, and it's kind of a contrived example. But where I'm going with this is I want to add a custom data source. And in here, what we're going to do is we're going to view something by term and by language, and we're going to add a view as a context here. Now what that means is that things like the view's header and pager and its actual output would be able to be spread across multiple regions. So if you wanted to put the pager at the top of your results and at the bottom of your results, you could do things like that. The technical implications here are kind of vast. Like I said, this is a bit more of an advanced example, but I wanted to at least show what I was thinking when it was scaled up to this level. Now in this case, when we go ahead and add this, this is actually a relationship of sorts because it needs a term and it needs a language. And so since you have a term and you have two different languages available, the drop-down for term would only have one item in it, and the drop-down for language would have two. If we didn't have a language or a term, then we wouldn't be able to add this custom data source to begin with. That only became available to us because we had the data sources that we had available. So we're just going to go ahead and hit save on that, and you'll see now we have a new view context, which if I were to click would have various view components. I'm not going to do that here, and so we'll just go ahead and close up the data sources. And so again, you can see that we kind of end up with this very simplified user interface that could be much more usable for the end user. And they're getting direct feedback for how data sources actually affect the block groupings that we have. And I think that's really important to this in the long term. Again, I'm not necessarily trying to push this as a solution, just trying to show the sorts of ways that we've done it in the past and why we've chosen to go that route. So hopefully this helps.